Yo, what is going on, everyone? So I am going over information about how to get my UI and the different pieces of my UI. So I've got links down in the description that can help you set up things to look like my UI, if case that's something that you're looking for. But I want to go over kind of like the main parts of what are here. So inside my UI, you're going to see that I've got Lvui, which is kind of like the base that modifies everything that's going on. So if I pull up Lvui, there's lots of different options in here. I'm just going to pull up and display my party frame. That way we can see what it looks like. So this is what my base UI is going to look like. So we've got my own unit frame on the left, my target on the right. If I want to set something as focus, it's going to show up in the bottom right-hand corner down here with the cast bar on top. Same thing with my target. And then I've got my party frames down below. Along with that, I've got my cast bar is right above my bottom bars, which are separated into 4 pieces. This is just based on how I have my bars set up. I've got like buffs and mouse wheels, and then on the right side I've got like my mouse buttons, and then everything in the middle is like my normal buttons and my alt modifiers of those buttons. And then I've got 2 bars on the right for all my extra toys and teleports and stuff like that. So that's the base thing that's going on. Obviously you can see it includes chat. My nameplates are also Elv. So that's something that I'm unsure if in my export string if it includes nameplates or not. I know lots of people like to use their own specific nameplates, but if you want the ones that I use, they are Elv. And I've just got it set up to show the name and the percent on the center of the bar. That way I can see how much health they have. So all that's included. I do believe, again, I'm not sure about nameplates, but that's all included in the Elv string. If you've never used Elv before, you can definitely go to TuckUI, spelled T-U-K, and then UI, and that's where you can download Elv. There's TuckUI in there, and Elvui is a different offshoot of TuckUI. So you can download that there, and then you'll be able to import that. And the way that you import is go to Elv. So on the escape, hit Lvui right underneath add-ons. This is the Lvui mainframe. And all that you need to do is go down the left to where it says profiles, third from the bottom on the left. And then from here, it'll give you some options. And the very top right one is import. And then you'll just paste the string in here and hit import now. And that'll import everything you need for the base UI here. My RAID frames, if you're curious, take up just about the same amount of space as my party frames here, except for they go slightly lower if there's more groups, like 5 or more. So you'll see those down below here as far as like RAID frames go. And then if I have an extra action button, that shows up above the focus and underneath my target, so that you can see that here when I picked up the weapon. It shows up here. All right, so all that is Elv. Okay. The other pieces that I have, and kind of the centerpiece of this is TellMeWhen. So some people like to just move their bars and put them in between and kind of put them to where they are showing up. I don't necessarily have my TellMeWhen set up in the same way that I have my bars at the bottom, right? So I kind of put things that are important where I want them. So like my main abilities are right here kind of in the middle leftish area with cooldowns and then CCs on the right. I've got my movement abilities on the left, and then generally cooldowns on the bottom bar there. So that's something I kind of set up for each character so that I can set it up how I want it. And then I've also got some additional cooldowns on the right side here that are a little bit more important to know. And then this side's blank just because I've got some weak auras here. So let me kill this guy real quick. Okay, so to open up TellMeWhen, you just hit enter. And then when you're inside the enter button, you're going to type in /TMW. So TMW for TellMeWhen. You'll know that it's open because you'll see this little cursor pop up in the middle. And then all these buttons, if you hover over them, you can kind of see that it's lighting up when I go over them, and it's kind of got this info. So to modify these, you can just right-click on whichever one you want to modify. So for instance, I've got Stoneform here. This is in kind of an awkward place compared to all the rest of them. And if you're not a dwarf, obviously you don't need Stoneform. So this used to be Clash, and I've changed it just to be Stoneform just so that I could have the button for it, and I just kind of like manually look down at Clash when I need to use it, or I'll try to use it, and if it doesn't work, then I'll try something else, right? So you can change that to Clash. I can change it to something else if you don't want it there. So it's got options there. I'm going to change it back to stone form, just because I am a dwarf and I want to know when that's available for me. But there's also some nice things that you can do with the TellMeWhens here. So, like for instance, ring a piece over here. I generally use ring a piece, but sometimes for like random niche boss encounters, I'll use Summon Black Ox Statue. They're on the same talent row currently, so it's either one or the other. So I've got this set up to where I've typed in ring a piece, and then when you hit enter, it'll give you this semicolon, and then you can search for another name. So let me just kind of show you what that looks like. So ring a piece. So when I start typing this, it'll show up over here. You can see as you kind of like start, it'll show you other abilities. But generally, it's going to put at the top what it thinks that you're meaning based on the spec that you're playing. So ring a piece here. Click on that. You can see it automatically enters the rest of it in and puts a semicolon there. And then if I wanted summon Black Ox, so I can type in Black, and then it's going to get some options here, and then Ox, right? And then, boom, Black Ox Statue is at the bottom there, and it automatically finishes it up. And then you can just hit enter, and that will cement it as being in there. So now if I use a talent changer and come into my talents and switch between Ring of Peace and Black Ox Statue, why didn't it change? All right, hold on. Oh, it's because I didn't put summon. There we go. Summon Black Ox Statue. All right, there we go. So you can see it changed down here to Summon Black Ox Statue now, and if I change it back to Ring of Peace, it'll change over to Ring of Peace. So you can put things like that in there to have it, if you're going to swap between, for instance, if you wanted to see Chi Burst, Chi Wave, and Tiger Palm, to switch between those, you can have that set up as well, if you want that for one of the buttons. I don't have those as buttons up here, but if you wanted them, you can. You can also see here that I've got a third button above my Weapons of Order, which is for Dampen Harm. I don't generally use Dampen Harm. I generally prefer to use Bob and Weave. So you can see that with it turned off, Dampen Harm doesn't show up because I don't have it. But if I select it, it'll pop back up there. And then if I unselect it, it'll disappear again. So if you've got things like that that sometimes you use, like Healing Elixir or Dampen Harm, but you don't use all the time, you can put those things in there so that it'll show up for you. So that's generally what's going to be included for the TellMeWhen for those. So let me close out of that. And then the rest of this that you'll see is weak auras. So stuff over here is weak auras. My energy bar is weak aura. My stagger bar above that is weak aura. And then the buffs that are going to show up above this are also weak auras. Right above my Touch of Death, TellMeWhen, I've also got a weak aura for Touch of Death that kind of shows me when I'm going to kill something. So let me just go ahead and get in combat, and I'll show you how the rest of this stuff works. So, in combat, and you can also see here how TellMeWhen is working. It just kind of shows the display of the buttons, so similar to what you'd see on like your regular bar. But, you know, it just kind of has it there in the heads-up display. Okay, so while I'm in combat, you can see my energy bar here right above my TellMeWhen. This is showing me green energy, anything above 65. It's showing me yellow energy, anywhere between 40 and 65. And then below 40 energy, it's going to show it as gray, and that's just kind of indicating to you, the gray there is indicating that you don't have enough energy for Cake Smash, because Cake Smash takes 40. The reason why I have it turn green above 65 is because above 65, if you then, you know, Spinning Crane Kick or Tiger Palm, you'll have enough energy to immediately right after use Cake Smash. But if you're in the yellow, then you might have to wait a second right after using one of those buttons to get enough energy for Cake Smash. So it's kind of an indicator within there to kind of let you know what you've got available. All right, above that is my Stagger Bar. This you can see is yellow right now. I just purified and it turned green, so it lets you know your current level of stagger. If I take enough damage, this is a 0, so I probably won't take enough damage, but if I took enough damage for it to turn red, it'll turn red. Now you'll notice a couple numbers on there too. So the number to the left is how much total damage is being staggered. So right now you can see it's fluctuating about 36 to 38k damage. It's just gone over 40 and turned yellow. So that's just how much total stagger do I have. Okay. On the middle here then, it says 1k. That's how much damage you're taking every second from your stagger. And then this percent over on the side is like percent of your health that it's being staggered. Okay, so the percent number is not super important. The more important numbers are kind of the middle one, how much current damage you're taking from your stagger, and how much total damage you have on the left. So that's there, and again, it's kind of there to help you know and manage your stagger instead of using this stupid debuff at the top right that is like the least important thing you could ever have to tell you your stagger damage. So those are there. You can see as I'm attacking, I'm also seeing other buffs come up. So the far left, this is our buff from Elusive Brawler, which is our mastery. So whenever we take damage, it's counting up and showing you the duration on the buff as well as how many stacks I have, because that continues to go up. So whenever you blackout kick or whenever you just take a regular hit, that'll go up. I'll turn my back to all these so you can see them just continuously rise. And so that's what that's tracking there. To the left, or I guess to the right of the Brawler stacks, we've got our Purifying Brew. So anytime I use Purifying Brew, it's going to show me the buff. This is the buff that buffs your Celestial Brew. It's showing you how many stacks you have and the duration left on this. I have it set up so that if you haven't purified in a while and the buff is about to fall off, it will put a glow around the icon, just kind of reminding you, hey, press Purify so that you can refresh your stacks. Directly next to that, then, in the middle, is going to be your Cell Brew. So when you use Cell Brew, it's going to pop up in the middle there. I've just got it set to just so the duration. I don't have it set to show like how much is left on the absorb. And then if it expires prematurely, it'll just disappear. To the right of that, and you see it pop up a couple times here, this is the stacks from using Keg Smash with the 4-set. So as I go into damage, you'll see it rises up. It shows you the duration on that buff. It shows you how many stacks you have of the buff. And then it also, at the very top in white, it's showing you how much additional health has been added from your 4-set. So what the total amount is being added there. Now, to the right of that is an empty space. In that empty space, as soon as I'm no longer incapacitated, this is where you'll see Nizao. So whether you use Weapons of Order or invoke Nizao, that duration will show up here. Just know that it does not work to where it will show you both at the same time. If you use Weapons of Order and then you invoke Nizao, it'll show you the first buff that you had and finish that duration, which shouldn't generally be an issue because you're not supposed to use both at the same time. So that's like that. And then on top of that is also Fort Brew. So if you ever have to Fort Brew when Nizao's out, it will cover that up, but that's just because that's more important than using Invoke Nizao and knowing how much time is left on that. So that's why I've got that set up that way. In the future I might change this to show 6 buffs instead of just 5, but those are kind of like the only 5 that I feel are important enough to be shown over top there so that we can kind of see it. Things that aren't shown there are going to be like your buff from putting, or I guess your debuff on a target for putting on Cake Smash. Same thing with your dot for Ignite for using your Breath of Fire. That's all going to show on your target if you've got debuff showing, so you can see that kind of thing there. Other weak auras that you see up here. So on the top left here, I've got my 2 trinkets. Now, I always set it up so that my top trinket is the left and my bottom trinket is the right. The reason for that is because I've got a macro set up that will use my bottom trinket, and generally I don't ever use 2 on-use trinkets. You can. I have in the past, and if that happens, then I've got normally I set up a different button for the top one. But generally, if you're just running with 1 on-use trinket, I've got it set up so that that's the one being shown first, or closest to my character so I can see it. So in that case, that is my Shard of Aegis on my bottom trinket. So when I use this, I've got a different icon that'll show up showing you how much time is remaining on the current active buff. And then when it is on cooldown, it's going to show grayed out like this, and it'll show you a timer showing the countdown for that. Now, even though my other trinket, Reactive Defense Matrix, is not an on-use trinket, I do still have it show there just so you kind of are reminded and can see what is used and what you have there. But the other reason for that is because some of these trinkets have proc effects. So I've set it up so that if you use Reactive Defense Matrix Ideally, you put it in the top one, because if it procs, like it just did here, you can see it's now pulsating, it turned green, and it's telling me the total absorb at the top with the timer remaining on it, so you have that information. So that's why I have that one there, and again, generally I'll still show it even if I've got two. Sometimes I'll use file, and that doesn't show any information, but I'll just have it there showing that I have it. Another weak aura that you're seeing pop up on the left over here is Shuffle. Now, generally, if you're following your normal rotation and not just standing there AFK, you are going to automatically have the full 15 seconds of Shuffle as you're in combat. This is done just by using Keg Smash, Blackout Kick, and Spinning Crane Kick, so it's automatically applied. You should never not have it up, so it's not super important for you to be able to see there, but I've got it there just as a reminder in case, I am doing a mechanic in raid, or I've just kited away from enemies, so that you know that you don't have it, just to kind of remind yourself to Keg Smash to get back into combat and pop those abilities. Now there's one more that is on here that's kind of important as far as my weak auras go, so let me get in combat with this pack over here. And so this one that's important is going to be the Touch of Death. So in Touch of Death, you can see it just popped up and showed with a glow around it and a number in there. So this is a weak aura over top of my TellMeWhen. The TellMeWhen tracks, when it's on cooldown, right? The weak aura is tracking to tell me when I can kill something. So as soon as it pops up with a glow around it, that means that my Touch of Death is, I've got more health than my target, and it's going to kill it. So if I target the Fleshcrafter here, it is not high enough or low enough health for me to kill it with a Touch of Death, right? But if I target the Patchwork Soldier, still not enough. Let's Keg Smash. My health went up, and now I can, as soon as I'm incapacitated, if I want to Touch of Death it, I know this is going to kill the target, and I'm going to get full value out of my Touch of Death. Generally, if you follow my rotation guide that I've sent out there, you know that basically you almost always want to be using Touch of Death to kill a target rather than to just do a third of your health. There are some exceptions to that, such as like the Shrouded mini-boss. When he's got the shield up and he's low health, you might want to use that just to kill him real quickly or to break the shield. Same thing with Maiden in Lower Kara. It's possible that you might want to, like, if the shield pops up a third time and the boss's health is low, just to make sure that you don't, the group doesn't kill, you might want to Touch of Death, even though it's not going to kill, just to get that extra damage on the boss to break that shield earlier. So those are two cases where you might want to use Touch of Death when it's not going to kill, but in most cases you are going to want Touch of Death to kill, so that's why that's set up that way. Alright, some other weak auras that are included, or I've included in the link to the description below. So, the first one is Encounter Time. So as you've been seeing directly over my character, let me just pop it up. So directly over my character, we have the Encounter Time. So let me click on this. This is just a timer that shows up, and when you are in combat, it'll show you the time. Not super helpful for keys, you probably don't need it for that, but if you do any raiding, sometimes it's helpful to know how long you've been in combat so that you can know when certain abilities are coming. However, in keys, I kind of do like having it because it's an extra thing that tells me when I'm still in combat, because sometimes you'll like move away from enemies and you'll start running to the next pack, and you'll be like, why can't I mount? Or maybe you need to eat food. And so seeing this timer just kind of lets me know I'm still in combat, and when I see it disappear, that means I'm out of combat. So that's where it can be useful for keys and raid. If you don't want it, you definitely don't need to take it, but I've included it there in case you want it. Something else I've included is externals. So it's always helpful to know when you have external applied to you from your healer, or maybe a DPS if you happen to play with a Ret Paladin. Don't know why you would, but maybe you do. So if you get bopped, right, or if you are given GS or Sack or Cocoon or Pain Sup or Ironbark, that's going to show up here. So it's not actually this whole long line. It's not going to show up over your character like this. It's very rare that you have more than one external on you, right? Maybe in raid, but even there it's pretty rare. So when this pops up, it's going to show the icon with the duration. It's also going to have a sound animation with it. So if you've got the extra add-on that gives you additional sounds for your weak auras and certain things like that, there's a sound that'll pop up as soon as you get it on you. It's going to say Heal CD, just in your speakers or your headset, and that's going to let you know that, hey, you just were given external. Okay, so that'll show up, and these again show up for all of these different ones. And then under BOP, I've also got a text that says cancel BOP, so that you remind yourself, hey, cancel your BOP, because obviously you don't generate threat while BOP is on you. Something else that's included in here are a set of weak auras that tell you if you've been misdirected. So MD on tank is something I've included. Again, this is another optional one. You definitely don't need it, but I've set it up to where it's got both tricks of the trade and misdirect. So basically, when it pops up, if you get tricked or misdirect, it's going to say aggro as a sound, just to let you know you've been misdirected. It'll say the target's name, whoever gave you the buff, right above the icon. But as soon as they start attacking, whether they're a rogue or a hunter, it switches to a different buff, which is the short duration where they're giving you threat. That one doesn't show the name on it, but it does show the duration of the remaining time on that. So this is just nice to know in case you have someone that isn't misdirecting you, or you want to know who's misdirecting you and when. You can kind of have this. Generally, I run with a rogue and a hunter, so I'll tell them to generally misdirect me at different times, and if they're continuously misdirecting me at the same time, then I am like, hey, let's offset these a little bit. Or maybe your hunter is forgot to set you as focus, or is forgetting to misdirect you, and they're misdirecting their pet. That's also good to know, to be like, hey, I'm not getting misdirected, so if you could misdirect me, that'd be nice. Okay, so that's everything that's in there. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about then is details. So I did include a details profile import if you want that as well. So to get these, my 3 windows, I've got damage done, healing, and then deaths. And I've got it set up to be over and mirroring where my chat is at on the opposite side. So to get this, again, you can just go into details, go to profiles, and then click on import, and then you'll be able to paste the string in here and hit OK. That should bring up these 3 windows. If you don't want to have the deaths one, the far right button up here will, you can just get rid of that and have it disappear. But otherwise, this is the 3 windows that I've got set up. So if you want that, I've got a link for that as well. So that's everything as far as my UI goes. Again, links for all of the import strings for Elv, for TellMeWhen, for each of the weak auras, and for details, they're all in the description below. If you have questions or comments about anything, make sure to put those in. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have a request for any other weak auras that maybe I didn't include in here, I can give you descriptions for that in the chat as well. So if you want to put that in the comments, I'll put it there. So thanks, and I will see you in the next one. See ya!